Nutrition. It's a process of intake of the nutrients. Nutrients were carbohydrates, vitamins and minerals, proteins, fats, and obviously water. And the other substances from which the organisms derives energy to do work. That means the process of intake of such nutrients to derive energy to do work, or else for necessary for growth, for maintenance of the various activities. That process of intake of nutrients, that is considered to be nutrition. The various modes of nutrition are obviously the autotrophic nutrition and the heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition. It's a mode of nutrition in which the organisms synthesize, they make their own food, like carbohydrate, from water and carbon dioxide. Obviously with the help of chlorophyll and presence of light, or else it's the most general form of the light, that is sunlight. For that particular purpose, light is necessary, chlorophyll is necessary, and presence of carbon dioxide and water. Then whatever the mode of nutrition, that is considered to be autotrophic nutrition. The living organisms which undergo this autotrophic nutrition, that means the living organisms which can synthesize their own food, like carbohydrate, by requiring carbon dioxide and water, obviously in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, then these types of organisms are considered to be the autotrophs. For example, the green plants are very well known examples of the autotrophs. Euglena or else Vovox, and the bacteria, some of the bacteria which contain chlorophyll, they undergo autotrophic nutrition. What are the necessary conditions for autotrophic nutrition? Obviously, carbon dioxide, water, light, chlorophyll, minerals like nitrogen and phosphorus, iron, magnesium, all these things are compulsory, are must for the process of autotrophic nutrition. Some of the components and their functions, that is what we shall discuss. For example, say carbon dioxide and water. Obviously for the formation of the carbohydrates C6H12O6, for that you require carbon dioxide, CO2, and water, that is H2O. Light is obviously necessary for the process of photosynthesis, because in absence of light, electrons cannot be charged in the plants, and therefore light is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Chlorophyll, once again the compound or the component which captures light, which is responsible for absorbing light, is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Obviously for building their body, the plants or the autotrophs, they require minerals. So minerals are necessary for the process of building their body. Some nitrogen and some other compounds, that is necessary for the process of preparation of protein. In fact, protein are complex nitrogenous compounds, and that is used for wear and tear and for overall growth of the body. Now let us study about photosynthesis. The process by which the green plants make their food. In general, what we call it as, that biochemical process is called as photosynthesis. In fact, it is a sandhi of two different words, photo and synthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means to make. So, to make food, especially over here when we are considering, to make food in presence of light, that is the meaning of the word photosynthesis. The various stages that are included in the process of photosynthesis are, number one, that is absorption of light, obviously by chlorophyll. Then conversion of that light energy into chemical energy, splitting of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen molecules, reduction of carbon dioxide to form carbohydrates. That means the process by which the food, what we call it as food, technically what plants prepare, that is the carbohydrates. We have an experiment to represent that chlorophyll is must for the process of photosynthesis. Now let us discuss about first of all stomata. Where do you think is stomata located? In fact, it is located on the surface of leaves, especially and in green stems of that particular plant. In fact, stomata are microscopic pores, and we shall study about that particular structure of stomata. Stomata on the left side is the real photograph of the stomata, and the diagrammatic representation is shown just besides that. Each of the stomatum is nothing but it is a small pore-like structure, and the pore is surrounded by guard cells. In this, as you can see, that they are guard cells which are responsible for opening and closing of that particular stomata. That is, stomatal pore is opened and closed, and it is controlled by these guard cells. What are the functions of stomata? When water enters into the guard cells, what happens? The cells become turgid. That means they get swollen off. And because of that particular reason, the pore opens up. And that is how the stomata opens. But when the guard cells lose water, especially when the process of photosynthesis is slow, glucose when converted into starch, and starch being insoluble in water, guard cells lose water. And when they lose water, they shrink. And when they shrink, what happens? The pore tends to close down. When plant want to conserve water and does not need carbon dioxide, obviously stomata will be closed. Let us see that how stomata opens and closes. This is real microscopic video downloaded from YouTube, that how stomata opens up and how the stomata closes. When it is open, at that time the water is filled into the guard cells, that is the two surrounding cells. So that was the video of stomata functions. Another important component for the process of photosynthesis is obviously carbon dioxide. Let us perform a simple experiment so that we can understand that how and why carbon dioxide is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. First of all, we take 2 potted plants and keep it in a dark room for approximately 48 hours or 2 or 3, sometimes 3 days also. Due to this, the process of photosynthesis would be almost stopped because of that particular reason. Then we keep both the plants which were kept in the dark room in the gas jar, or that is bell jars. In one of the bell jars, we shall keep a dish which contains potassium hydroxide. Now the function of this potassium hydroxide is to absorb carbon dioxide which is present in that particular bell jar. So one of the bell jars is having carbon dioxide, that is bell jar on the left hand side, and the other bell jar which is containing that potassium hydroxide powder in that particular petri dish, that carbon dioxide is absorbed by that potassium hydroxide. So the second pot will not have the carbon dioxide for the performance of its photosynthesis. Let it stand for some time, and then we pluck one leaf from each of the part of the plant, and then we identify whether starch is present in the leaves or not. What is that we will observe? If starch is present, we will perform the iodine test. If starch is present, means process of photosynthesis did take place. That means there will be change in the color of the iodine. Whereas if starch is absent, process of photosynthesis could not take place. That was mainly because of absence of carbon dioxide. Let us see how we can identify the presence of starch in the given leaf. We saw that in the previous video also. First of all, we heat that particular given leaf in a boiling water so that it becomes tender. Then we keep it in a test tube which is meant for heating purpose. In this we take alcohol, and we take alcohol in such a way that the whole leaf is submerged, is immersed in that particular alcohol, taking care that none of the part of the leaf should remain outside the alcohol. So insert that leaf properly. Then we need to heat that in hot water bath. because you know that alcohol catches fire very quickly. See, change in the color of alcohol, that represents that chlorophyll is slowly and gradually being removed from that particular leaf. Now, this leaf is then washed with cold water. So, gradually take it out, put it in a dish, and then wash it. After washing it with the cold water, what is to be done? Obviously, the iodine test. When we perform this iodine test, then we will see that there is some change in the color of iodine from brown to bluish black or blackish blue. See? So, the video which is being downloaded from the YouTube did show the presence of starch in the leaf which was there in the pot, which did not contain the potassium hydroxide. So, the experiment says that carbon dioxide is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Let us perform an experiment to show that light is necessary for the process of photosynthesis, which was performed by Amrita Vidyalayam, and it has been downloaded from the YouTube. We will see that a pot is kept in dark, and after 3 days it is removed. Then with the help of a black colored strip, or as mentioned in the textbook, you can use aluminum foil also. A part of that particular leaf, any of the leaf of that plant is covered, and cover it very carefully that this much part is not exposed to sunlight. Now keep this plant in the sunlight for some amount of time. Pluck the leaf where we had put down that black colored strip. Now we shall perform the iodine test. And the same procedure, that iodine test, first of all, water, it is boiled in water. Then what happens due to boiling of the water? It becomes loose. Then it is boiled in alcohol. And after that, see, first of all, water is heated. Now, that heated water, it is heated up to 60 degrees Celsius. Alcohol is taken in a heating tube. And we'll keep the leaf in this alcohol and then heat that leaf so that what will happen? The extra amount of the chlorophyll will be removed from that particular leaf. The change in the color of the alcohol indicates that chlorophyll has been removed. A part of the chlorophyll, though, has been removed from the leaf. Wash it again with cold water. This is an important thing. And now, treat this with iodine solution. What is that we will observe? A part of the leaf was covered in the experiment, and see, no change in the color took place in that particular part. Remaining part, the color did change of iodine. That represents that starch was formed in that much particular part of the leaf. The part of the leaf which was covered, no starch was formed, no photosynthesis took place. So exposed portion and unexposed portion, that represents that light is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Another mode of nutrition, that is heterotrophic nutrition. It's a mode of nutrition in which energy is derived by intake and also digestion. That is ingestion, digestion of the organic substances obtained from a plant or animal. That means from some other living organism. Then that mode of nutrition is called as heterotrophic nutrition. Obviously, the organisms which cannot synthesize their own food by using carbon dioxide, sunlight and water, they will be called as the heterotrophs. After intake of the food, that means after the process of ingestion, the food has to be digested into the simpler form. Because the food which is consumed by the living organism, that will be in an extremely complex chemical form. So, in order to utilize that food, it has to be converted into the simpler form by the process known as digestion. All the animals, some bacteria and fungi, they undergo the heterotrophic nutrition. Some of the types of the heterotrophic nutrition that can be further classified as saprophytic nutrition, parasitic nutrition and holozoic nutrition. Let us study about saprophytic nutrition. The mode of heterotrophic nutrition in which the living organisms absorbed from the dead and decaying organic materials. That means from the dead parts and the decaying parts of some other living organisms. They derive their nutrition in the form of organic materials through their body wall. That is considered to be saprophytic mode of nutrition. Remember, saprophytic nutrition is one kind of heterotrophic nutrition. These organisms, they depend completely on non-living substances. That means they are not harming on their host. Some bacteria and fungi, they undergo this saprophytic nutrition. Another heterotrophic type of nutrition is parasitic nutrition. So mode of heterotrophic nutrition in which the living organisms depend on other living organisms. That means they depend on the living body of the other organisms and derive nutrition. Now that is harmful, isn't it? But that mode of nutrition is parasitic nutrition. Organisms from which the parasites derive nutrition, they become the host. And obviously the hosts are always then harmed by the parasites. Several bacteria, fungi, plants like cuscuta, animals like tapeworms, ascaris, all of them, they undergo parasitic nutrition and they are called the parasites. When we discuss about parasites, there are basically two kinds of parasites. Number one, endoparasites, deriving nutrition from the inner part of the body. That means they live in the body of other living organisms, harming them, deriving nutrition. For example, Plasmodium, which causes us malaria. And the other kind of new parasites, that is ectoparasites. Ectoparasites are the parasites which derive nutrition from the exterior part of the body. For example, the mosquitoes, they derive nutrition, causing harm to the host, but they can derive nutrition from the exterior part of the body. And the last kind of heterotrophic nutrition, that is holozoic nutrition. It's a mode of heterotrophic nutrition in which the organisms consumes parts of the plants or animals, or else the whole organism is taken in as food. Then that kind of nutrition is holozoic nutrition. Now digestion has to be followed on that particular nutrition. Solid food is converted into simpler absorbable substances, and then that absorbable substance is absorbed by the cells of that particular animal. The undigested food, the part of the food which was not absorbed, the undigested part, that is thrown out of the body by the process known as egestion. So we also undergo the process known as holozoic nutrition. Now let us compare the autotrophic and the heterotrophic nutrition. That is the points of distinguishing. First of all, the autotrophic mode of nutrition is the mode of nutrition in which organisms synthesize their own food, isn't it? Whereas in heterotrophic nutrition, organisms cannot synthesize their own food, but they depend on some other living organisms for obtaining their nutrients. Here the carbohydrate is made from water and carbon dioxide with the help of obviously sunlight and chlorophyll. No such process is taking place, but the carbohydrate is obtained directly from the other organisms, either maybe plant source or maybe animal source, and then it is converted into simpler absorbable form. The mode of nutrition in green plants, in Euglena, in volvox and some bacteria, that is autotrophic mode of nutrition. Whereas the mode of nutrition in all the animals and some bacteria and fungi, that is heterotrophic nutrition.